A winter dawn in 1957. Philadelphia police discover a cardboard box by a frozen woodland road, and within it, the body of a small boy. Who was this child, and why was he left there? For decades, the answer eluded investigators and a grieving city alike. His fate and mysterious injuries would haunt Philadelphia for generations, raising more questions than answers. February 25th, 1957. In the Fox Chase section of Philadelphia, a college student searching for rabbits stumbled upon something unimaginable. A large cardboard box, once containing a JCPenney baby bassinet, had been propped against a tree in the woods. Inside lay the limp body of a young boy. The boy was found with no clothes and malnourished, his small frame marked by bruises and scars. His dark brown hair had been crudely shorn into a low crew cut, possibly even cut after death to hide his features. Investigators later noted he was well cared for. His teeth were intact, and his fingernails had been neatly clipped. But the violence was clear. He bore deep bruises on his arms, legs, and head, injuries that police would conclude had been inflicted by a heartless attacker. The crime scene was like something out of a nightmare. The victim, estimated about 4 years old, had been wrapped in a blanket and left inside the bassinet box. No one knew his name. With no ID, the boy would come to be known only as the boy in the box. Philadelphia had never seen anything like it. Word of the grisly discovery spread quickly. Philadelphia newspapers splashed the boy's image on their front pages, and police plastered lost child posters across the city. 400,000 flyers and circulars were mailed, was also included in gas bills, in an unprecedented search for clues. Detectives worked feverishly. They took fingerprints and sent thousands of circulars to doctors and police across the state, even to liquor stores and grocery shelves. In one photo plastered on walls, the boy sat fully clothed, the way he might have looked alive, as police begged the public, "Who is this child?" Despite the public outcry and hundreds of tips pouring in, no one could identify him. Theories abounded. Some wondered if he was an immigrant or refugee, perhaps a child fleeing the recent Hungarian uprising, or if he had escaped a nearby foster home. A sensational tip in 2002 even claimed his name was Jonathan, and that he'd been bought from a trafficking ring. Police followed every lead, from forensic sketches to psychics, but each one led to a dead end. All across America, reporters dubbed him America's Unknown Child. Meanwhile, in hospitals and autopsy rooms, examiners combed his body for clues. They found surgical scars on his ankle, groin, and chin, signs that he had received medical care as a toddler. He had never been vaccinated or been to school, suggesting he lived a sheltered life. He came from a home where the parents gave him loving and tender care, one inspector noted. This fit with the boy's neat appearance, even after death, and hinted at a cruel irony. Someone cared enough to keep him clean, then met this boy with unimaginable violence. But by spring 1957, frustration set in. 1 week after the discovery, the Inquirer reported the investigation was at a virtual standstill. The city's usually heroic efforts had turned up nothing. As the years turned into decades, the boy in the box became one of Philadelphia's most haunting cold cases. The child was buried by detectives in a potter's field in Holmesburg in a small white casket on a July day in 1957. Not a single relative came forward. He rested under a simple grave marker. Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy. In the decades that followed, his story never quite faded. A memorial sign was installed near the site where he was found. In 1998, with DNA technology advancing, investigators exhumed the grave and tested the boy's remains. The medical examiners had another burial ceremony at Ivy Hill Cemetery, this time engraving his headstone with the words, "America's Unknown Child." William Fleischer of the Vidocq Society, which helped rebury him, vowed, "Our mission is to go forward from this day and put a name on that tombstone." Meanwhile, the murder went unsolved. Generations of officers and even amateur sleuths kept the case alive. Detective Sergeant Bill Kelly had been the fingerprint expert at the scene in 1957, and he never forgot the boy's face. His granddaughter, Jessica Green, later said that image stayed with him his whole life. Others pored over theories. Was the boy a secret child of a prominent family? Could an anonymous tip steer them right? Each new rumor was checked and dismissed, and year after year, the case grew colder. Despite the silence, the boy was never completely forgotten. Nightly news shows and true crime books would later feature his story as one of America's great mysteries. A reward fund stood at $20,000 for information, still waiting for someone to step forward. Technology changed everything. In 2019, police obtained a court order to exhume the boy's remains again, this time to extract DNA. It proved painstaking. Colleen Fitzpatrick, a veteran DNA expert, later revealed that it took 2.5 years just to recover usable genetic material. But finally, a snippet of DNA was uploaded to a genealogy database. The breakthrough came when it matched a distant relative who had done an at-home ancestry test. Investigators traced the links back to an extended family. With a court order, they obtained a birth certificate for a boy born January 13th, 1953, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. On December 8th, 2022, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw announced the name.
Without the hard work, dedication, and passion and the doggedness of the many, we would not be here today to give America's formerly unknown child, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, a voice.
Joseph Zarelli, age 4, victim of the boy in the box case. At a crowd-filled news conference, Outlaw spoke for a generation that had grown up with this mystery. For 65 years, the story has haunted this community, she said. When people think about the boy in the box, a profound sadness is felt. Not just because a child was murdered, but because his entire identity was taken away. This announcement only closes one chapter in this little boy's story, while opening up a new one, Outlaw said. This is still an active homicide investigation, and we still need the public's help in filling in this child's life story. In that moment, the anonymous child had a name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Though both of his birth parents had long since passed away, police said he had living relatives who took comfort in finally knowing his name. Tributes poured in. Fans of the case felt some closure. Yet a grim question remained. Joseph Zarelli's name is now on his headstone, and even his picture was added at Ivy Hill Cemetery in a ceremony on what would have been his 70th birthday. His family and the many investigators finally have the dignity of knowing who he was. I think, as a family, that's why it's important. America's unknown boy has this identity revealed, said Jessica Green, granddaughter of Sergeant Kelly, reflecting their relief. But Joseph's story is not yet finished. The person who hurt him remain at large. Philadelphia police stressed that the homicide is still an open case. Captain Jason Smith and Outlaw urged anyone with information to come forward. A reward still stands for justice. As the police commissioner warned, authorities have suspicions as to who may be responsible, but they need proof. 65 years on, the boy in the box is no longer anonymous. He is Joseph Zarelli, a child who lived and laughed and somehow came to rest forgotten in the woods. Today, his identity has been restored, if only in memory. In a city of brotherly love, the hope is that someone will remember the rest of his story. The final questions linger. Who killed Joseph? Who can finally bring him home in peace and justice?